Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to BBallBreakdown and another edition of Court Call with Ronnie Nunn. And as you may or may not know, Ronnie was an NBA referee for 19 years, was for 8 years in administration of the NBA, and 5 years as head of officials. And Ronnie, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today to lend your expertise on refereeing in the NBA.
Well, thanks, Nick. You know I'm with you. You've give me a great voice and to your show and the things that you're doing, which is remarkable in following hoops, especially at the NBA level. So I'm glad to chip in and be part of it. I thank you very much.
Well, hey, my pleasure. Well, let's jump right into our first call then, because certainly there was a lot of ripples going on in the news this week about Boogie Cousins having a 55-point double nickel game, which was extremely crazy and interesting and exciting and epic, and also, in his own words,
ridiculous.
And part of the reason why was after he made this incredible and one spin move, he ends up in front of the Portland bench and the mouthpiece falls out. One note is that he had gotten a technical foul earlier in the game as a double technical as he got caught up with a player down underneath the basket after a free throw. So the peril is a second technical foul, he gets ejected. Ronnie, walk us through what you see here and what the referee was probably thinking as his mind was unfolding this action.
Well, you know what? I tweeted out the other day about this situation. Coming from a special education background with high schoolers and people that are gifted and talented, and we have to remember, Cousins obviously is that. He is gifted and talented. But what happens with that group of youngsters sometimes, and in this case a young man, is there's an emotional piece to this gifted and talented ability. And as he makes a hell of a move down to make this and one play, and he gets fouled all the way. And in my view, we can talk about it, but it's a pretty clean drive. Plumlee gives space, so if he took a position, he might have been able to get an offensive foul. But he spins beautifully. He makes the shot. It's an and one. He emotionally is cheering for himself in a way. And all of a sudden, there's a look at the bench. And we know that look, if you can see it really good, you're looking for him to say something or whatever because it's a taunt. It's a possible taunt. And you can't get a technical for a taunt, and that would be an ejection because of his first tech. But when he gets over there, his mouthpiece comes out, and I don't know if Coach Stotts recognizes that it's spit out, and he is right there with the official who's making the call and gets the official to think that I'm getting help on this play. I knew there was something, and I think he responds by giving a tech. And here's the problem. If you don't really see it, and you don't really hear it, and you can't see the face of a player talking or taunting to a group of people or one person, you can't really give a technical foul, especially one that's going to eject a player. And, no matter what it is, your decision is big when you give a tech. So it's important, like every call, it's important that you get your facts right. I think he responded too quickly. And to his credit, he wasn't comfortable, went back to the crew, they huddled together. So he rescinded the technical, and that was a big move, but that was the right thing to do, and that's within his elastic clause as an official to do.
So we looked at the 2-minute report that they posted online, and it's exactly what Brian Forte ended up telling us, which was, I called the technical foul because I thought DeMarcus threw his mouthpiece into the stands when it ended up underneath Portland's bench. And then he said, I conferred with my partners, and they confirmed that he did not throw the mouthpiece and that it came out of his mouth, and that's how it ended up there. So what I'm taking from that is that they felt like it just accidentally fell out in his exuberance or whatever he was doing, and it kind of ended up on the bench. But the implication almost sounds to me as if only throwing the mouthpiece is a technical and spitting it out is not, or could you still get a T in your mind if you spit out your mouthpiece at somebody?
Well, in my mind, spitting out a mouthpiece is just short of spitting completely. And if a player, for example, let's take the high side of it. If a player spit at another player, I would eject him. In our culture, spitting at somebody is a major thing to do. It's the most degraded thing one does to another in our culture. I don't know what about other cultures elsewhere. So that would be an ejection for me. But if he spit the mouthpiece out because it was a form of that, but the mouthpiece sort of it doesn't show that saliva type of thing out there like a spit would, like spitting would, I would just give a single technical foul. The problem was No one saw the juddedness of this blurt out of this mouthpiece clearly on the court. And in the case of going to instant replay, this is not something you can replay and go look at the replay center and get some help on. Except one video you may want to share with me.
Yeah, we were lucky to get one fan in the stands was able to get the one angle that we needed that no one else had on the broadcast, which was, there was this notion of it fell out in his, while he was saying something, but it's so clear, crystal in the video that we have here, that he pauses, doesn't say anything, and then ejects the mouthpiece on purpose at the bench. So I would agree that should be a technical foul, and he needs to be able to control himself a lot better. And also, the thing I don't really like about this, quite honestly, is that it was after a positive play that he made. This is an angry reaction to a play that should be where he is happy and is celebrating. And in fact, he hurts the team that way and he gets thrown out. And by the way, when they rescinded it, he ends up making a potentially game-saving block that he would not have been in for, and that could have changed the whole game as well. So I'm thinking that, and then you see the post-game, interview with him where he sounds to me like he feels like there's a conspiracy against him. When in fact there's cause to realize why these referees are calling certain things that way. So I just feel like Boogie is in a situation where somebody needs to help him, and he needs to make some strides to get to that next level.
Well, to be honest, I have a program called New Hoops IQ to reach out to players that are foul prone or have conspiracy thoughts, and really how to work with officials and how to really work with yourself in terms of the things that you may be exuding to people that are not true about you. I think there's a little bravado there on his and one play, and the pumping of the chest and fists to the chest and things like that is part of some of this stuff, which I don't think is always necessary. But in this case, he did it at the bench, and he wanted to demean people over there, in my view, from seeing that other, obviously, the cell phone look. Obviously, there's a picture there. You can see that. So I think he's got to be honest with some things, and then also take his power and his sort of handsomeness of play and his presence and use it to his benefit, not to demean himself in the manner in which he comports himself.
Hopefully he'll figure that out. But let's move on to our next clip, because we got a couple more here that are some good ones. And speaking of conspiracy theories, we have Hawks at the Thunder, and down the stretch, Russell Westbrook. And I tweeted this out as a kind of a monstrosity of a shot because I didn't know what the heck was going on. And people did insist that he got fouled on this play. So coming down the stretch, under 10 seconds to go, he kind of drives in there. And no call on the first shot. So, Ronnie, walk us through what you're seeing here and what you think really happened.
I like the no call. If you look at the defender, now he does turn his body into Westbrook, but in a way, he doesn't turn into his space. He doesn't turn into his path. Westbrook creates a path for himself, but he's very, very clever at shifting his body and propelling his body as if he were hit. This is a guy that goes off the wrong foot sometimes to the hoop, and there's little things about him that make him look unusual when he's going to the hoop, which is tremendous, by the way. He has this off foot jump to the hoop sometimes that he just propels himself forward. Well, this is another way he does it on the ground when he's on the dribble. And on the floor, he swivels himself as if he's hit. In my view, I think it was an excellent no call. Here's a case where he swiveled to try to demonstrate that contact caused the swivel. It's a very shrewd play. He creates the lure, but he doesn't get a bite.
Sure. I like Cephalosha, and that was what I was looking at mostly, was that how he kind of got out of the way and tried to show everybody, hey, I'm not really making a play on this thing. I guess the one issue here is that Bazemore comes around, and when you look at the overhead angle, he probably whacks him right across the wrist there, so that could cause some issues. Well, when you go back and look at the 2-minute report on this play, you see that the NBA decided that this was an incorrect no call. They felt like there was enough contact on Cephalosha that merited a call. Now, I know that you've also talked about this in the past, where referees are not necessarily inclined to swaddle their whistles in the end of the game situation, but does that factor in here at all about why that wasn't called?
Yeah, I know some of the conspiracy thinking and some of the I don't know where that all comes from. I don't know if coaches put that on the referees psychologically or whatever. The bottom line is you've got to call plays as you see them. I really thought that this play was cleverly not called for the right reason, because I thought that his path from point A to B, where he was starting his drive and where he ended up, I did not see Cephalosha, though he turned his body. The cosmetically does not look good, and he had maybe a little bit of a hip in there, but I didn't see a lot. What I do see is the clever allure of Russell Westbrook on going to the hoop. He is very clever. He jumps off the wrong foot sometimes. You think there's a certain cadence of him coming in, and he launches earlier. He's very clever, very athletic, and obviously a very high intellect player. And what he does is lure this call, which unfortunately he doesn't get, but to tell the truth, he doesn't deserve in my view. But I understand the point that it might be seen by those at the NBA office that, it's not worth splitting that kind of hair, and that maybe give him the benefit of the play. But in my view, I thought it was a kind of a lure artistically to swivel his body to get people to see that he's fouled. I didn't see much there.
For sure. Well, the ball went out of bounds on the Hawks. They have one more shot, the Thunder do. And so, rather than try and go for a 2-point play to tie the game and go into overtime, they opt for a screen, a double screen for Russ for a 3. And now this one was more interesting because in real time, to me, it didn't look like much. I thought it was a challenge. But what do you see here on the replay, too, whether or not this could be a foul on Bazemore?
Well, there is no question here that there's a foul at the wrist. This is a play we have to get. And the problem here is it's the mechanics of what's going on today with the officials. And you really have two officials that should be on this play. You see the other one on the baseline looking at it. And there's another official going to the wrong side of Westbrook when he should have no business going left. He should be going right and onto the court. And then he would have the same view we all have that's right here in the clip. So there is a kind of tendency to miss work, slot, and trail work. It's been going on a lot, and of course the lead could just as well make this call, but he could have been blocked out a little bit in terms of the defender.
And I agree. I think this is the real problem because, this is a crucial shot here. It's right in front of the referee, and they just simply have to see that. You need to somehow be in a position. And I do notice that the referee that is in the baseline is in a weird position where he's surrounded by, Thunder players. It doesn't seem like that's optimal for him to be able to process everything that's going on.
This is the only play in town. There is no other play going on right now but this jumper. And you can't get 3 sets of eyes on it, but you can certainly get 2 sets of eyes on it. And anything below the free throw line, the lead is really very strong on following that action because that's the baseline official. And the other official is really a trail, but he's acting like a slot, which means he's going down below the free throw line to get a look, which is a big habit that is many times wrongly done. And this is an example of a talented official who's in the wrong spot. And one of the keys about refereeing is mechanics. It's like running an offense. If you don't run your offense, whatever it is, you throw things off and you don't convert. Mm-hmm. And here we need a conversion on a foul that we don't get.
I think it's also what you said in mechanics. It's spacing as far as offense and spacing with the referees. The referee that's right behind the play there, he's too close. It's almost like you can't see what's happening when you're literally. He's probably 4 feet from away, right? And he's probably shielded by Russell Westbrook's body. I would have an issue, I think, with that view as well. Although the baseline referee, it seems like he would have had a nice shot at it too. So, the NBA certainly reprimanded whatever wants to correct that or acknowledge that was a mistake, and that was a big play.
This is a simple play, and this official habitually moves down, and you called it shielding. We call it straight lined or being stacked. You can't see through him. There's no red S on his shirt that says Superman that can see through bodies. So you can't do it. You got to position yourself knowing that this is the play. And by the way, this is the only play. Mm-hmm. And 2 sets of eyes on this play is needed. One of the 2 should have had this.
Absolutely. And let's move on to our 4th clip here, which is when the Milwaukee Bucks and the Cleveland Cavaliers hooked up. And we got a couple of really good games this week between them. And Pick and Pappy on Twitter suggested to me he has a question about this play in the early in the 4th quarter where The shot clock winds down after the ball goes out. There's only 2.6 seconds left on the shot clock. And when they try to inbound the ball, it becomes a kickball situation, which then resets the clock to 14. Now, I think this is a good opportunity to discuss the kickball and that the notion of what the rule really means, because the argument could be, well, great, if I don't have that much time left, I'm just going to throw it off a guy's foot every time on the inbounds and we'll get more time on the clock. But that shouldn't be the case. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, you can throw the ball. Yes, you are correct in saying that. The key is there's a big chance. I think aiming for the foot or the leg is tougher. Remember, it's a kickball really means from the foot all the way up through the thigh. So anybody that uses their leg to that extension, which is not often thought of that way, it's a violation. And by the way, with the player trying to avoid the ball coming back at him, had it hit him, it would not have been off him because of the original violation. So there is a reset to 14 seconds, which was good to do. And they continued, but what I'm saying is it's not a good ploy to take advantage of a rule that I don't know how many times one out of how many times that's going to work to your advantage.
Well, my point also is for it to be a kicked ball, you have to intentionally put your foot out in the path. So that was the question. To me, I'm not sold. I mean, I'm watching it like 5-6 times now. I guess there's sort of the notion of him sort of stepping in that direction, but I don't know. Do you really feel like he intentionally got his foot and leg in that position to get that kick call?
Well, you know what? It's close. And looking at it right now again, I think he moves his whole body. He keeps his legs spread, and he moves his body as a deterrent. And when you do that and your legs are extended like that, it's more of a kick ball.
Right. And then so the answer would be you simply couldn't just throw it at someone's foot because you'd have to make sure that's an intentional kick, and that would not be a bailout for you in normal situations. And the referees, I'm sure, know that and are aware of that. And yeah, I can see that. And just a little shout out to Malcolm Brogdon, who is I think on my favorite player list right now. He's been playing fantastic for the Bucks. So great question there, and I'm glad we can clear that up because I know that people on the playgrounds and in the pickup games and everywhere else are going to use this to explain when next time the ball hits off someone's leg, it ain't a kick unless he does it on purpose.
Well, and I failed to say that, and that's the first thing to be said. It has to be intentional. And in this case, it was subtle, but it was intentional.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet on the outrage front of the NBA and the referees, which is always a good thing. But I'm sure we'll find some more to go through going forward in the next few months. And again, don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Ronnie?
I'm in. Thanks again, Coach. Glad to be with you.